Isabel Oakeshott still with me. She knows him and says he's a great guy, and I'm sure he is. He's not a striking junior doctor, but he was talking on that issue. He's a GP, a hard-working GP who only sees fit to do 3 days a week. We just heard him say, Isabel, that it's not possible for GPs to do more than 3 days a week because of the mental strain, their strain on their mental health. Well, a lot of people do manage to do 5 days a week. Why did doctors exonerate themselves from the 5-day week system that has been such a traditional success in this country?
I so wish that it had been someone other than Dean Eggitt saying this, because if it was anyone else, I'd be frothing like you are. I happen to know how hard he works. He is a really good guy. In general, what is wrong with these people? Why can't they work at least 5 days a week? I'd like them to work over the weekend as well. I'm sick of the whole, when you call on a Monday morning, you're caller number 91 in the queue. We're all sick of that. And I'm very, very sceptical that if and when Labour get in, and they've promised an end to the 8 a.m. misery of calling and finding your caller number 81 or 91 or 103 in the queue, they say they're going to resolve that. I can't see that happening anytime soon because, quite simply, there are nowhere near enough doctors for the level of population.
Well, I respect you, and if you say he's a good guy, I'll accept that he's a good guy. However, I do not accept that doctors have the right, the entitlement to say, well, you know, our job's so special, the mental health pressure's so special that we alone can only do 3 days a week. He said it was impossible for a GP to do more than 3 days a week because of the mental strain. What about all the other people who do 5 days a week? Talk about me, me, me. That's not an acceptable statement.
Well, some GPs, in any case, obviously do work full-time. Maybe what he meant was it was impossible for him personally, that he finds it too much.
OK. Listen, on the line, because we must talk about the junior doctor strike, is former NHS Trust Chairman Martin Gower. Martin, sorry to keep you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Good show too.
Thank you very much. Well, before we get to the junior doctors' strike, what do you think about what Dean Eggitt said? As I say, Isabel Oakeshott's with me, whose opinion I very much respect. She says he's a hard-working guy and he really does work hard, but do GPs have the right to say it's impossible for me to do more than 3 days a week because of the very, very special strain on my very, very special job? Lots of people have extremely stressful jobs and they accept that the system is 5 days. Why have doctors got the, or GPs, why do they feel they've got the right to say different?
Well, Kevin, up until 2020, mid-2020, when I was still an NHS chairman, I had a lot of contact with GPs. And I heard two stories from them. One was how stressful and pressured the job was, how there were GPs turning to drink and all sorts because of that pressure and stress. But from the same group of GPs, I'd hear in the same conversation how probably up to as many as half of the people who presented in their waiting room had no need to see a GP. So something's going wrong here. Some of the stress is self-made. And I just think there needs to be some sense here that the part-time, I can only work 3 days, would worry me if, I mean, I don't know the particular doctor, obviously Isabel does, but actually in my GP practice that I attend in the one great town of Stratford-upon-Avon, 9 out of our 12 GPs in that practice are part-time. And of course, it's got a bad gig if it's part-time. What we have to remember too is that GPs are private practices. They are not on the payroll of the NHS. Their practice is paid a capitation fee, and a GP can earn as much as the practice can afford to pay them. The other thing to remember is that 52% of all GP appointments, when people phone for an appointment, 52% are currently, they are being seen within 48 hours, either that day or the following day. So there is a lot of nonsense being talked about the GP service at the moment as well.
It's certainly, I mean, accepted, but it doesn't seem to be as good as when I was younger. Let's talk about the junior doctor strike. Tomorrow morning, they staged their 11th walkout in this long-running dispute. They're after 35%. They're never going to get that. So as of 9 o'clock until July the 2nd, 2 days before the election. They're going to be on strike. The NHS has warned of major disruption, particularly in the slipstream of this heat wave. They're very worried about the effects of this walkout. And as we always say, Martin, no mistake, no excuses. People will die. Patients will die because of this. And as I always say to you, I cannot believe in this country we are allowing people to die on the altar of industrial action. No strike is worth a single life. So what I put to you is, if they're going to carry on like this, I suppose they're waiting for the Labour government, to be fair, but I would ban doctors, frontline medical workers from going on strike, just like we ban the armed forces, the police, prison officers. They should become among the people who cannot go on strike, because when they go on strike, people die.
Kevin, I feel a little uneasy about telling people they can't strike. I equally feel very angry. My own brother is a retired doctor, and he says that this absolutely demeans the profession that they've chosen. Mm-hmm. Waving placards, you know, they haven't grown up from being students. They like standing outside in a picket line outside a big London teaching hospital, waving placards. I think it's pathetic. I think it's childish. And a lot of that sort of thing goes on around the NHS. I was in a trust where the doctors, the consultants, decided to declare a vote of no confidence in the chief executive. And I sat down with some of them and said, what on earth are you talking about? You know, this is student stuff. This is childish, pathetic stuff. What difference is it going to make? Yes, you have a problem with the chief executive. So why don't we get around the table and have a chat and see what the issues are and sort them out? Votes of no confidence belong in the student world, not in the world of running a great hospital.
Well said. Isabel, the point about this lot, these junior doctors, this is their 11th walkout in this dispute, in which everyone accepts, probably them privately, that what they're demanding is outrageous. It's impossible, 35%. So they're enjoying the striking process. Whether or not they were always aiming for a Labour government or something is another issue. But people have died because of these medical disputes, and I'm not prepared to let people die because of strikes. If they're going to carry on like this, they need to be banned from striking, don't they?
I actually don't have any problem whatsoever in principle of banning people from striking. I'm pretty hard line on this. I don't really agree with it, particularly on a right to strike. I think if you're paid by the taxpayer to run critical services, then that's what you should do. And if you don't like your job, well, ship out and, you know, we'll get other people in. Clearly, it's a bit difficult to suddenly conjure up a load more doctors. So not ideal, but I take a pretty dim view.
You do too. Martin, thank you so much for our brief but always entertaining conversation. Thank you very much, Martin Gower, former NHS Trust. Thank you very much to the excellent Isabel Oakeshott. We'll talk